Alright, hello. So today I want to go through my single eyeshadows and just get rid of the ones I'm not using. I already have taken a look at my magnetic single eyeshadows, but we'll go ahead and look at the potted ones as well, and I'll go over everything that I'm going to keep and everything that's going to go to a new home. Let's start. Okay, right here we have some of the eyeshadows I mentioned that I already have gone through and have decided that I don't need. They're either duplicates that I have in palettes, pre-made palettes, or they're duplicates that I have in my own single eyeshadow stash. And I will show you what that looks like right now. Here's my colorful single eyeshadows. My neutrals, you could tell that a lot of these are the duplicates that I'm speaking about over here. And then lastly, I have a more pinky purple plummy palette, a magnetic palette filled with those sorts of shades. So I will go through the ones that I'm getting rid of. We have this one from Makeup Geek, they don't make anymore, called Secret Garden. This one is Colourpop, called Now and Zen. Another Makeup Geek called Steampunk. And again, our Makeup Geek has all square pans. I'm not sure how the formula differs. This one is an ABH called Mermaid. I do love these kinds of blues, but I have multiples of this one, and this one just isn't as pigmented, and it's not really one swipe, it needs to be built up. This is a Colourpop one in the shade Sidetracked. It has some of that glitter that Colourpop has become very fond of lately in their mattes, which I don't prefer. And these are Colourpop as well. Okay, here we have some single eyeshadows that are in their own little case. Some of them do pop out, and I could put them in an empty magnetic palette, but I don't. I keep these ones in their proper container. I am going to be keeping all of these. I have Wet n Wild Creme Brulee, the original, which is a pretty classic, just brow bone, neutral base type color for somebody with a lighter skin tone. I do like having that on hand. I also have the original of the Wet n Wild Single Nutty, which I love as a single shadow look. It really becomes dimensional when you're using it, even as a single shadow look. I don't pull for that one nearly enough. I do pull for this one whenever I want a bright pop of pink. This will be the first one I can swatch here because it is rather brilliantly sparkly, kind of like an oyster pearly pink. Very pretty. Another NARS, this one is in their newer formulation. I got this one at like a TJ Maxx along with this one. This is the shade Stud right here. That's Stud. And this is the shade Cashmere, which I do hear Arnett Elaine here on YouTube, who I love, talk about. So that's Stud and Cashmere. This one, Cashmere, does remind me a bit of Nutty. I can swatch that on my pinky. Trying to make that work. There they are. Nutty is definitely a bit more warm, a lot more warm. So those are the that I will be keeping. Okay, now here we have a quad and some trios that I keep in my single shadows because I'm usually, when I grab for it, I'm just grabbing for something really easy, maybe even just one of them. And I do know off the bat that I will be keeping the Kaja trios. Those are a bit newer to my collection. This is the Orange Blossom. They're called the bento boxes. This is the Rose Water. And I do reach for these. I love this one to add to a berry look or to have a very springy look. And this one was great in the summer as well as in the spring. Now this one is very old. It is a Revlon Color Stay Quad in the name 515 Adventurous. And I used to love this thing. I used to get compliments when I wore it. I have more hazel eyes, so these kind of greeny, bronzy colors really complement my eye color, but I don't reach for it anymore, and it is quite old, years old. I also recently splurged on this quad from Charlotte Tilbury, which is in the shade Golden Goddess, and as you can see, they are pretty similar. They have a kind of bronziness and a brownness that compare a little bit. They're not exactly dupes. I wouldn't say that if you want this, this is exactly the same. But if you did want something along these lines to bring this kind of bronziness to your eyes, maybe check out the Revlon section at your local drugstore. I'm not sure if they even make this anymore, but I did get good use out of it, and I could say goodbye. This one will probably be recycled instead of rehomed. Okay, who remembers when these were all the rage? Especially this shade right here. This is the iconic Amber Rush in this L'Oreal Infallible eyeshadow range. I think they still make these. I think they are great. They are sort of like a pressed pigment. And for that reason, I actually reach for them less than my pressed single shadows. This shade, Amber Rush, is kind of a bronzy rose gold type shade. It is lovely. I do hold on to it every time I declutter, but I think it's time to get rid of all of these and see if somebody else would happily reach for them if they have a smaller collection, or if they're into more one and done situations. I also have the color here, Bronze Taupe. I have Golden Sage, Eternal Sunshine, and Liquid Diamond. Okay, here we have all of my Colourpop Super Shock shadows, and I also threw in an Urban Decay single. I only have one of those, and I figured let's just even it out. There's also a dupe for this shade right here in this range of the Colourpop Super Shocks that I have. So these were some of the first kind of pot single shadows that I ever tried. some of them can feel kind of an attachment to, like I wore this on a Valentine's date. I remember, you know, when Kathleen put out her best of Colourpop video, and she mentioned coconut. So some of these are a little sentimental, but I'm trying to not consider that, and again, just make sure that the things in my collection are being used as regularly as they can be, considering the size, and making sure that anything that could go to a better home does go to a better home, especially because all of my Super Shocks have stayed in great condition. I do hear that they dry out. I'm always really adamant about putting the cap on really tight once I'm done using them, and they last great for me. So let me pull the ones that I know for sure I'm going to be keeping, and then we can see what's left over. This color here was part of their spring launch a little while ago. It's called Flipper. I will swatch these ones. It is a stunning kind of orange creamsicle shade with lots of silver glitter in it. And I just love it, especially during the springtime. It pairs nicely with other warm colors, and it does remind me even a bit of that Orange Blossom bento box from Kaja. Another one right off the bat that I know that I want to keep is this one. Again, I believe this was a spring launch. I think they still make these though. This is the shade Ladybird. It reminds me a lot of the Fenty Beauty, excuse that squatch. Excuse that swatch. It was off screen, I believe, so you can sort of see it there next to Flipper. It is a kind of translucent base. I do not have the Diamond Bomb, but I believe it is something like this, with a clear base with just tons of sparkle, and this is great as a topper. I really like this shade. Another one along those lines, again from that spring launch, is this shade in Frog. It reminds me a bit of that NARS single that I'm also keeping. I love these kinds of shades, and I'm not... I am okay with keeping more than one of them. Let's see if I can get a swatch. There we go. And it is a pinky iridescent, again a bit of mother of pearl kind of vibe with a pink and a blue shift. All these three are lovely, full of sparkle, and I'm gonna keep all three of them. Okay, two shades that I think are dupes for each other. Let me remove the lids here and swatch them as well. Are Colourpop Ritz, which I heard about first from Mariah Leonard, but I also hear Julia Mazzucato, both here on YouTube, talking about them all the time, and it is talking about this shadow all the time, and it is gorgeous. It has kind of a beigey warm base, and then it is stuffed full of silver glitters. So pretty. It is that just wet look on the eye, a one and done, so easy. This one is a moon dust shadow from Urban Decay, and it is in the shade Space Cowboy, and I heard about this one from Amanda Z, and actually I did not realize, but they are pretty similar. This one has even less of a base. It has a bit more of a transparent base going on, but you can still see it does have a warm base. And let me show you on my fingers. This is Ritz. This is Space Cowboy. Do I need both? Probably not. I am going to keep both because I love them so much. This one was a bit more pricey, and if you want this look, go for Ritz. It's so similar. So these are two I'm going to be keeping. Okay, now gathering these up to see which ones are going to survive. I think I can take a look at these three blues. Here I have Coconut, the iconic. I have Warrior, also beautiful. And I have Isa. Some of these just have a bit of a base that's just too dark for me to enjoy it. This one looks great on your finger, but then it comes off a bit more blackened, and it's hard to build up. Warrior, I think, is similar. Let me compare Warrior and Coconut. I would like to have one blue Super Shock, so I can safely say, yeah, that's pretty blackened. That's a pretty blackened base. Whereas Coconut, I think, is just pure blue. And if I wanted it to be a deep base, I could just put it over a black. So yeah, I'm going to keep Coconut. This one probably is the driest of the ones, of the Super Shocks that I'm keeping, but it's still, I think it still looks fine. And I'm going to try to donate these two to a new home. Okay, now out of these four remaining, I know pretty much which ones I'm going to keep. Cherish, I really like. I Heart This is not my favorite. Millionaire is a classic for me, and I do reach for it. And Telepathy, which I think was the collab color with Kathleen, which is probably why I got it, is not my favorite. So I'm going to rehome these two and go ahead and keep these two. This reminds me a lot of Amber Rush, but I don't have to deal with a pressed pigment. And this one is so creamy still. This was one of the first Super Shocks I ever got, and it is a nice bronzy color. So those I will be keeping. And these I will be rehoming. Okay, we are coming to an end here. I have all my cream shadows here. This is Tom Ford in the shade Platinum. We have MAC Bare Study, MAC Groundwork, Revlon, Color Stay, cream eyeshadow. I can't find the shade name, but the number is 710. And Hourglass Scattered Light in Smoke. Off the bat, I'm going to keep all of these. I'll just explain a little bit about them. This is a press type pigment, and I'm still willing to faff around with it, so that should tell you a bit about how much I enjoy it. I know Jamie Page calls these, here on YouTube, she calls these kind of like glitter for grown-ups, and I totally agree. I love this taupey, glittery shade. Platinum, I was influenced to purchase by Amanda Z here on YouTube, and it is a gorgeous, really unique, kind of like a golden bronzy, but still with a nice silver accent running through it. Very creamy, very long lasting. Love both of those. And then these three are more similar in formula to each other. We have MAC Bare Study, which I reach for the least, but I do reach for it, especially on a no makeup day. and it is very long lasting. It will last through a warm day. Groundwork, these paint pots are just as good as people say. They do stay, they do blend with a brush. You can apply them with a finger as well. And I feel the same way about this Revlon one, and it is a beautiful color that I can't quite find from a more high-end formula, but I don't need to because it performs wonderfully, and it is a beautiful bronzy cream shadow. Okay, lastly, here we have my glittery other category. Off the bat, I will be keeping these two glitters just because I think they're fun to have for super special occasions, and they're not too expensive. They don't take up too much room, and they don't really go bad. So these are the NYX glitters I have. Here they are a little closer. I have this kind of holographic silver in this bronzy color. It's 06 and 08. This is one I am going to get rid of. It's a Colourpop Supernova Shadow. I just don't really enjoy the formula. It's pretty cool, but you can see it's rather chunky, and it can be hard to blend out. It can also be hard to get to be very opaque. It's not really easy to work with, and it's not something I would reach for all the time. I do love like a blue shift like that, and I am looking for something I can incorporate like that, but I think it might be better suited either in a straight up glitter or in a straight up cream, and this is sort of a hybrid of those two, and it doesn't quite work for me. These two I will be keeping. This is pretty iconic. This is Midnight Cowboy. It's like a silver gold mix. It is an eyeliner brush formula. It works great. I've done just plain glitter application with it, a glitter liner application with it. I love it, and I think they last a while. These, however, do not last a while. This is my only Stila, I'm not sure what they're called. They're the Glitter and Glows. This is my only Stila Glitter and Glow from a 3-pack that remains just crusted and dried. This is the shade Diamond Dust. It is a little different because this has a bit of gold. This is just plain silver. I'll hold on to it as long as it stays, liquid enough to utilize. And we have two last sort of stick eyeshadows. I am going to rehome this. It is a beautiful color. It does kind of get on the inside of the cap, and this came as a sample. This is a Nude Sticks pencil in Burnish, and it is a beautiful bronze color, but I just don't find myself reaching for it. I'd most likely reach for one of my cream shadows over the pencil, just because that's what I'm more familiar using. And this can go to a new home because it is barely used. I will be keeping this one. This is, I think, so beautiful and so underrated. However, since it is a bite product, it does have a shorter shelf life. This is multi-stick in the shade Oyster Pearl, perfect name. It is very creamy, and it gives you that wet look on the eye, which I really enjoy. I'm not sure how much longer I can use this, but I'll try to continue to get use out of it. Okay, and that is everything I've gone through. I'm really happy with what I've kept. I don't think that it's overkill. If I had a couple of gaps that I wanted to fill, I wouldn't feel guilty about it. But I'm also really happy keeping it the size that it is right now. So I can do some math and flash some numbers up just to see where we ended at. But thanks so much for sticking around if you watch the whole thing. And I plan to do some more of these on other parts of my collection, so feel free to like, subscribe, and stick around if you want to see more content from me.